everyone, it's Brittany, your friendly plant-loving internet stranger, back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I have been wanting to bring to this channel for months. I was supposed to film this video last year and I just never got around to it. I could never find the motivation to film this video. I reached down deep inside myself and I found the motivation to talk to you today about my issue. Internet plant friends, I need your help. I'm coming to you today. I'm being vulnerable today to tell you that I have been over here unaliving string of pearls left and right. I said it. Not on purpose, okay? It's not on purpose. I've featured the string of pearls plant on this channel quite a bit and I brag, okay? I brag about being able to take care of them. I'll say I bragged past tense because you haven't seen a string of pearls plant on this channel since 2023. I can tell you that for sure. You might have seen it in the background, but you haven't seen it like prominently featured in any of these videos. And the reason for that is because most of them ain't doing that good. A lot of them have gone on to glory. I used to have string of pearls plants, like baskets, like the 8-inch baskets that were hanging in front of my windows and the pearls were just cascading down to the floor. I'm talking like 6 feet worth of pearls just like cascading beautifully over these baskets, hanging in the window, looking like a really Instagrammable moment. And they not here no more. They have crossed the green bridge to glory and they're not coming back. I'm being vulnerable right now, right? I'm looking for support. My cry for help is specifically around the large basket string of pearl plants. And I can't even show you an example because I don't have them anymore. My issue with those is that after a while, they dry out and they don't come back, you know. And the string of pearls, for me, my experience with them has been that I have a lot of success with smaller string of pearls plants. I'm able to propagate them really easily when I put them in a shallow planter or I put them in a really shallow dish with a little bit of dirt and they like latch on to the soil. They love it. I even have them growing in moss, and those all work really well for me. But it's something about the large 8-inch planters or 6-inch planters, and they're deep. Here is a philodendron Brazil, and is this an 8-inch basket? I think this is like an 8-inch basket. Do you see how deep this planter is? Like how deep it is? I would buy string of pearls plants that would be in pots like this, and they would be the same size. And when I would get them, they would look beautiful. They'd be really full at the top. They have a lot of like pearls growing over the sides. And after a while, as they continue to grow longer and longer, like they look beautiful and I water them and the pearls will be all nice and plump and full. The top would start to become really bald. Where it will become bald, it would be like really dry and brittle. And when I see that, I'm gonna put this plant away because this is not the star of today's show. When I see the string of pearls plant starting to become really dry at the top, the pearls are shriveling up. It's almost like there's no going back from there. This has been my experience, right? When my plant gets to that point, because if I try to repot it, because it's so dry at the roots and like the stems that are coming right out of the soil are already kind of like drying out, eventually the rest of the string is gonna die. So I end up cutting them up and propagating them. And I actually pulled a couple string of pearls propagations that I pulled from other plants that I had where the mother plant was unalived by me or by Mother Nature. And I was able to save these children of that mother plant. So here are two, right? Like these look great. They're not super full, but I am happy with the growth that they have. I'll try to do some close-up shots too so you can see them a little bit better. This pot is really ugly, so just ignore that. But here's this one. And then here's another one. This one is not as full as this one, obviously, but I think this might have been like one long tendril of pearls, and then I just kind of wound them up in this pot, and they're doing okay. Like the pearls are plump and they look really healthy, and I water it regularly. I just actually watered them yesterday, and these are doing fine. I've had these for over a year, you know, and there hasn't been significant growth, but there has been some growth for sure. I can tell, you know, based on where they were when I put them, because I think this one literally just had like pieces laying across the soil, and you see it now has some hang time, so that's an improvement. And then this one, you know, had a similar story, and it's a lot fuller at the top. So I can keep adding to these to continue to make them sort of grow over the sides and fill out on the top. But my point is, when I have the strings of pearls in smaller pots, they just do a lot better for me. I'm gonna show you an example of what one of my string of pearls looked like, one of the plants that I had in one of the large pots, like the pot that I just showed you with the Philodendron Brazil in it, what it looks like now. I don't know if I have any footage of what it looked like back in the day when it was like healthy, but I'm gonna show you what it looks like now. It's a little shocking, and it's very disappointing when I look at the plant now. So here she is. This is now in a 6-inch pot, and you can see this pot is pretty shallow. I like these pots because I actually do think they're great for string of pearls and any other plants with shallow root systems that have grown, if that makes sense. So that other pot that I showed you was just too deep of a pot for string of pearls. String of pearls have very, very, very shallow root systems. And if I could even find a pot that was like, you know, maybe half the height of this one, that was even more shallow than this one, maybe half the height of this one with the same diameter, I probably would have been better off putting this plant into that sort of pot, because the roots would have just fared a lot better. These roots are just so shallow. So you can see close to the top of the video where the vines that are going into the soil are like pretty much dried out. That's what my large string of pearls plants would look like when I had them like cascading onto the floor. When I would first get them, it would be like all full and green and pearly, filling out the entire space of the plant, but then eventually they would look just like here and dry out. And then it's like, I haven't really known what to do after that happens. Like, how do you reverse that? And so when the plant is looking like that in a larger pot, I just haven't known how to reverse those symptoms. I haven't known how to repair that outside of just cutting the plant up and starting over and propagating it like I've shown you with the smaller containers. And so this plant, I actually repotted this last year sometime, I believe. And it was a really, really pretty full plant. And now it's not, it's not that at all. I'm actually shocked that these pearls are still green. I could attempt to wrap some of the pearls around to like fill in the bald spots here and then just cut out all of the dry bits. The dry bits are like that because some of them were still like that when I transplanted it from its mother plant, but I honestly think this is neglect at this point on my part because I put this plant here. I was disappointed with how I looked and I wasn't giving it as much attention, just out of like frustration of how the plant was starting to decline, right? But when I first got the plant, it looked good. It looked good. Like, that's my point, is when I get these larger string of pearls, they look fine when I bring them home, but then like after a while they dry out at the top. I can't water them properly. When I try to just pour water on the top, it almost like just sort of puddles around the edges and just stays on the perimeter and eventually like sinks through. It's almost like when I have purchased these string of pearls plants in larger baskets, they are being grown in some really spongy material. And I can't tell what it is, but it does not serve the plant long term. It's frustrating because these are such beautiful plants, and like I've got them to such a point where they just look so impressive, like, you know, award-winning plants. Like I've never won any awards for any of my plants, but that's what they look like, right? It looks like something you would see on a pretty Instagram plant page or in a home magazine or something. Like they're just very attractive plants, and then they just look ugly almost overnight, and it's frustrating. Now that one still has some green on it. This one right here, this one just doesn't. But look at this. Now you're also going to probably see some cat hair and some fuzz. You might see some spiders dropping off of this one too, like regular old dust loving spiders. In the attic, spiders, just regular spiders from a house, you know. You definitely see this mushroom on top. Now that was a surprise. That mushroom started growing when these pearls were still green. I've had this sitting in the corner on the floor for literal months waiting to film this video. It's going in the trash after this. I don't need it anymore. I don't know why I felt it necessary to show the internet this carcass of a string of pearls plant, but it was really just for dramatic effect, and I really thought that this one was going to do something, and she just didn't. She did not want to be here anymore, and I respect it. You know, I respect it, but for as much as these large plants cost, like I really want to know why they're not making it and what I can do. Now what I've been doing in the interim is not buying these no more. So like now all the string of pearls plants that I'm going to have are the ones that I already own. I don't think I'm in a mental space with the string of pearls where I can spend any more money on those plants, knowing that I'm struggling to care for them, the larger plants. And the smaller plants, I just don't want to have like 50 tiny string of pearls plants lying around, because then neglect starts to kick in. And I've already said I'm not really buying any more plants. I'm trying to downsize with plants. I'm trying to consolidate them, plant some of them together. But I do have some that I have already propagated and replanted into smaller planters. And these are the ones that came from like mother plants. So I'm going to show you another string of pearls plant that I have that is a lot fuller than the other two small ones that I just showed you. But this one has a little neglect from me. It's not that anything was wrong with this plant. Now, I believe this one did come from one of the mother plants that didn't survive in the large pot, but this one right here is just neglect. Here she is in this really, really pretty blue and white ceramic planter. This is a really, really pretty planter, and the string of pearls, when it's in its healthiest state, looks really good in here. This one needs to be watered. She's not doing the best right now. But like, this is an example of what neglect looks like. She's just been neglected. You can see that she's actually growing over quite a bit. This right here is not looking the best. It's giving split ends. And she's got split ends because I was not tending to her tendrils properly. She got split ends because she didn't want to be here no more. She's got split ends because she don't want to be here no more. This one was happy. This one was good. She was just enjoying life, and I looked at her and said, oh, you can have some water next week. And then I kept saying that over and over and over until I looked at her one day and saw that, you know, some of her pearls were completely dried up and not looking their pearly greenest best. And that's my fault. I don't have any issues with admitting that like I've gone too long without watering the plant, or it's a succulent, it could take care of itself for a little while. You know, I have that mindset and I just completely ignore a plant. I need to make some decisions about the way I'm storing a lot of my plants in my home, because there are just some plants in some places where I'm less likely to water them regularly, even if I know they're there and I see them. I have a couple more of these string of pearl plants that are starting to look like this, and I don't want them to do that. So I will at some point go through and do like this could probably be its own video with the amount of like maintenance I need to do to some of these string of pearls plants, and just clip off a lot of these little dead strings and dried up pearls and give them a good fertilizing. I want to see some changes in these plants before the end of the summer. In the IKEA cabinet, I also have a couple of these recycled food containers that I use as like little propagation stations. This one I tried to make a little greenhouse effect so it could grow a little faster, so I put a little plastic wrap on it, and it's worked. It served this plant well. There's no real issue with this string of plants. You can actually see it's very, very full. I've been growing this in here for over a year and it looks great. It's looking dry though. It's very dry. It's in sphagnum moss, and they grow beautifully in this. The only issue with this one is just, you know, I have to water it. Human error, I guess, you know. And so I need to water this one. Hopefully we can get this to a point where like the string of pearls are growing over the edge of the container. You can see a little bit of hang time on this side. So that's pretty much it for this video. I wanted to just have a really quick open conversation about the challenges I've been having with the string of pearls plants, and to see if anyone could offer some advice on how to care for the larger hanging basket string of pearls, or if you've experienced something similar with them drying out from the top, and if so, how you've dealt with that. Feel free to leave me a comment. I would love to know if anyone else out there has had similar experiences with the string of pearls, with the larger hanging baskets specifically, and if you've noticed them drying out, how you deal with them, if you have any insight on the growing medium, the ones in the large baskets come in, and how to like properly care for it. That would be great. If you also struggle with the string of pearls, you are not alone. I put myself out there. You've seen what some of the plants that I've had look like in the past and what they're looking like now. Not my proudest moment, but definitely something that I'm just kind of stumped on myself, and you know, would love to hear from other plant parents as to how you're dealing with these issues, or if you've experienced this stuff before. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more plant content just like this, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.